Hey everybody, this is Miss Jasmine again. This is part 2 of our color theory, aka color schemes video. So if you saw in our last video, we started to talk about our different color schemes. We got a chance to talk about complementary, and we got a chance to talk about monochromatic colors. So, hopefully you got a chance to see the first video. If you have, welcome back to this video. And, if you want, let's get rolling. Let's get into the next part of our video. So, if you want, get you some snacks, get comfortable, put on your jams, get you some coffee, drink coffee, or some juice, or some tea, whatever you please. And we'll get started with the next video. Our next color scheme is called split complementary, and it's basically the same as using complementary colors. Same thing, same concept, right? Only difference is that instead of using the color directly across, you'll use the colors that are kind of like it. These are still directly across, but they're like on the other side of that, like that main complementary color. It's split. So this is like a yellow green and like a blue green. So let me write that down. So split complementary. Okay, so like split complementary is still like complementary colors. The only difference, instead of using the color that's like right in front of you, you would pick two colors that are like diagonal or almost right across from you. So if the complementary color for red is green, then the split complementary color would be this green yellow and this blue green. So basically it would look like this. So you got your red, and that again, that's the brightest, and then your blue green and your yellow green. Okay, and same rules kind of apply, like that good old 80-20 rule. The only difference is that you don't have to struggle with like saturation and desaturation as much, because these colors aren't as bright as your main complementary color. But it's still a good idea to use different hues and different saturations. So this still applies. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to see a picture where you have like, let's just say you want to make like a still life, right? Still life image. So this is your table, and then you got your like curtains in the background. Just imagine these are curtains. I'm trying to like speed through it so I don't spend a whole hour explaining this. I probably need to check my recorder and see how long I've been recording. But yeah, like you got curtains in the background, or like wallpaper or something in the background, and then this bright red apple. And I'm using apples because everybody knows what an apple is. And this bright red apple sitting on top of that. You don't really want that. I mean, it's really, you can use these colors and it's great for graphic design, so like there is exceptions in the rule if you're making like a cool graphic, but even then you still have to limit how much you use of that. So as I say, you want to make like a poster or something like that, you can totally like make a graphic design and then have this red be all behind it. And actually, let me stop being silly. Yeah, you can make like a really cool graphic image or logo or something like that using this color scheme, right? It's not impossible, but even then you have to kind of limit the amount of each color. So like this red is kind of like my primary color or my main color. And actually, there we go. That wasn't as opaque as I wanted it. But yeah, this red can be my main color in this illustration. But you know, for my words or my lettering, oops, there we go. For my words or my lettering or whatever, I want to probably use this like light green over here. And then, and actually, because that kind of looks a little crazy, so hold on. And actually, what I can do, I can put this on the inside and then use this green as my typography or something. So yeah, like this color scheme could totally work, right? But it's important, and then like you give it some like funky shape or something, but it's like important to know that you want to kind of like limit how much you use of each color. And that's kind of a bad example. I can post an example of really good use of split complementary colors, and actually I could do better. I can actually draw that better, or draw a better example. Like I might actually cut this out completely, I don't know yet. But let's take this example again. Let's go back to this example because I kind of went on a tangent. But this example, like I said, it doesn't look bad, like it doesn't look terrible, and technically I'm kind of using what I was saying before. I'm using less red than I am using this like kind of this like olive yellow green and this like, you know, this blue green. But if I want to make this say a little bit more grounded in reality, I would desaturate these colors. So yeah, my table can be this bright teal green. It can totally be that. There's nothing wrong with that. And actually, let me go ahead and start off with my wallpaper, because now it's wallpaper, now it's not occurring. Whoa, I shouldn't do that. But like I said, now it's wallpaper. We're just gonna make it wallpaper. Right? So now we got our wallpaper going on back here. And then, you know, we're gonna continue to have our like cool little like blue-green table. I think it looks like teal. Actually, I guess it's more like a desk rather than like a table. I'm just saying table. Also, this is probably gonna look a little bit better because I'm adding more details and time and effort into the good example. But still believe it doesn't matter how much time you put into something. If the colors are off, it can kind of cause some eye strain. Basically, using the right colors really can make or break your piece. So okay, so we have our table. Now what I would do in this situation, if I wanted to add more detail, I would use a darker color. So you can do a darker color to make it like a drawer, to your desk. And so now you have some variation. Instead of just like a solid, this green rectangle block thing. Now there's some variation to that. Now it's like, now it is a desk, right? And just to kind of keep up with the same design, I'm gonna like make this wavy on the bottom because I accidentally did that. You know? So now we got some going on there. You know? And if you want to like get real detail, like maybe you add some like, you know, I'm trying to like clean it up a little bit. But yeah, now you got a desk, and now you know that's a drawer right there because it's darker, and now we've added detail, you know. And now maybe you want to like add a little bit more detail. So like now you like say you want like a knob for that. Now you got a knob. And then like you want to add some highlight because you know highlights are cool. We can indicate that's metal or some type of shiny material there because there's, you know, now there's some variation. Now you got something interesting to look at. And then you want to indicate the legs. You do that. So now you got legs to your table. And then like a little cute design or something. I don't know, but adding, you know, the different type of saturations and stuff calls for you to have more detail in your drawing, bringing it more closer to reality or more grounded, you know. And you know, if you're not looking for grounded, that's fine. But most of the people who ask me how to get more realistic drawings or more interesting or stylized drawings, that's what they ask me, like, how do you do that? And really it's form, perspective, and color theory. Paying attention to what things look like in real life. Understanding that when you're looking at a table, it's not just like one little flat image, you know? You know, so I'm gonna add a little bit more detail on it until y'all kind of get the point, or at least until it makes even more sense. But I think we're getting there. Don't forget your shadows. And that's another thing. I think I mentioned this in another video, but you know what? Like a lot of people, when they add shade or they want to add darkness to a picture, they instantly go grab a black. Don't do that unless it is this area or there's a place that is actually devoid of black. Why would you say that, Jasmine? Why would you say don't, you know, your first option if you want to add shade shouldn't be a black? Because it can actually be kind of harsh. If, let's just say I wanted to add like this area over here where it's obviously like darker than the rest of it, giving this like little like desk or whatever I'm drawing an appearance of some type of dimension. If I went and grabbed a black, that'd be so harsh up against that. Now, unless you're doing that for a particular like art style or whatnot, I wouldn't do it. You know, instead, if I wanted to make that darker, I would just get a darker blue green, and now it doesn't feel as harsh. You know, it's a lot more palatable, and it actually makes a little bit more sense, because a lot of times when we're looking at something, we think something is completely black, but really everything you see is affected by light. And when you just put black on the paper, it's kind of telling me that this area is devoid of light, when we know it isn't, unless it's like a night scene or something, which is not. We're assuming that we're painting in like white daylight. And then let's just draw a little like apple on top of there. And again, you know, just drawing like a flat apple, that will clash. And it you know, if you want to go for that, fine. I'm not knocking anybody's art style, especially if you're more of a graphic design artist. because sometimes like a lot of illustrations done by graphic design artists, it'd be simple because it's for packaging, or like a website or something like that, so it has to be simple and you have to use like a limited amount of colors. But you know, in this case, we're not going for that. You're trying to create a scene. Maybe this scene is for your comic book or something. You know, so you want this apple to be a little bit more dimensional. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna grab this darker red, this darker desaturated, it doesn't have as much hue to it, and I'm gonna add a shadow to it. And so now, you know, this apple is actually in some type of space, and you know, maybe we want to add more dimension to it, so we add a different shade next to that. And if you remember my value video, you'll know that this is how you create form. And you know, you can blend those colors together and get you like a nice little gradient. Like, it's all cool. I'll take this other color of red and add that to it. And blend. And so now you got like this painterly little apple on your table. Right? And then, you know, you get a dark color stem over here, like a dark color. You add that. And then you can like grab you a darker shade of this out of your color wheel, right? And you make your leaf. And see now that looks a lot more cohesive than this. Now granted, that doesn't look cohesive because, you know, it's not as neat as clean, but even if I cleaned this up, right? Like, even if I made this a little bit more cohesive and whatnot, you know, it would still be real flat because there's no shadows and there's no values. These hues are all at max saturation instead of having like different types of values and, you know, values and forms to it. You know, it's flat. I have nothing to indicate any type of shadow. I have nothing to indicate any type of like light. You know, and all the colors are just, you know, all screaming at you at the same level. You know, now again, if this is your art style, like, go for it. There's nothing wrong with going with a flat art style. There's a lot of great artists that do that. But if you're trying to go for a more grounded look, something that is more grounded in reality, that is going to be your best friend, is adding those different colors and values to your picture. We have a few more. I've actually been recording for a minute. I might have to cut this video down a little bit. Next, we're going to talk about, this is a triadic color scheme. And so what this is just picking colors that are spaced equally apart on the color wheel. So basically, and I'm gonna try to, let me write this definition down. So, oops, I always forget to unlock these layers. So this is your triadic color scheme. Okay, so basically all these colors on this color wheel are basically spaced apart. So if I turn this layer back on, oh, that's crazy, disregard that. But you know, if I didn't scribble all over that, or actually I can bring that up. So I'm gonna get rid of this real quick and turn that off. But if I bring that up, basically from what you see here is that the colors that are picked on that example would be like this yellow, and then if we go over 3, next would be this red, and then you go over 3 again, it would be this blue. So that is what you would make your triadic color scheme out of. Yeah. So I mean, same rules apply. You know, you don't want to use these colors at like full saturation all at one time. I can't stress that enough. But, you know, if you put these colors together, and yeah, I use the primary colors for example, you can very much use these 3 colors in a illustration and it would make sense. You can do that. But what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to use different values of these colors, right? Like, that's what you want to do to get not only variation, but something appealing, you know? So prime example, that whole ocean example again, you know, let's just say I wanted to draw like an ocean, and that's my ocean. And then I'm not doing very good drawing an ocean. There we go. Let's just do that. Let's just start with that. None fancy, no fancy shapes. Okay, and then I wanted to draw like a little boat on top of that. And then it has like a cute little sail on top. Again, nothing wrong with this if you want to like create some type of like graphic, some really graphic artwork for like an advertisement or something like that, or you wanted to make make this logo for like a toy or something. But you know, if you want it more interesting, then you have to realize that like you have more shades of red than that. So let's, you know, get into our boat. We want our boat to look more detailed. Add more colors, please. Use more variants of that color. Don't be afraid to do that. And really, boats are more like this. Yeah, I think I am going to do that video about like symbolism and not relying on a drawing based off of said symbolism, because we kind of do ourselves dirty by not really studying and figuring out how things look. We just say like, oh, that kind of looks like a boat. And even now I'm not like really doing a great job, because again, I'm trying to like make up for time. And matter of fact, yeah, this whole boat wouldn't even be like a bright red like that. It just wouldn't, you know. And again, you know, this might sound like I'm just talking a bunch of gibberish, but you know, if you actually kind of like go out and you look at artwork from like great painters, so you look at like a Vincent van Gogh painting, or you look at I don't know why like Photoshop keep doing this. This is stupid. It's getting on my nerves. But if you look at like, say, at a great Vincent van Gogh painting or something, or you look at it like a great Leonardo da Vinci or Rembrandt, or I'm trying to think of some other artists instead of like really cliche, Michelangelo, or you know, any really great artists, they use everything I'm talking about. And so you can very much practice this stuff from real life. But yeah, I'm not gonna go too much detail in this, but y'all get my point. Like this, for example, this is a red, but this very much looks like a brown. You know, let's just say we wanted to add, as an eraser, add some blue waves to that. So now you got some waves going on. So now your ocean has dimension, and all this is that I'm using is like a desaturated blue, right? Like it's not like a blue. This is all weird and full force. Now, like, we can say this is a body of water and not like it's just a big blob of nothingness. Right? And like, this looks more like a boat than what I had before. And you know, even if you want to add some like ripples to indicate like reflection, like look at that. Now that we have a scene. It's a scene, it's a thing, it is a whole mood, and then like we add some distortion to that. Look, y'all, so we just created a whole, you know what, I'm gonna make a background for that. We got sky now. Up. This is a cool thing about Photoshop. I ain't gotta worry about like going over swatches or covering stuff up. I think I'm having a little bit too much fun in this. I'm gonna shape out my boat a little bit more. Make it have a little bit more sense. But like, since by doing those like those really tiny simple things, we have a more interesting picture. You know, now you're getting closer to like reality. You know, like now we can say, oh yeah, this is definitely a boat, and now that's a sail coming out of there, and we can use like a more desaturated yellow to indicate that, and your sail, you know, you put the little generic other sail on there. I really don't actually know how boats look. I should have probably Googled for a reference, but I didn't. I just know that you got that going on, and then I'm gonna use like a darker red to add in details. and don't be afraid like to make mistakes. Can I say that, please? Like, I'm goofing on myself in this video because like I know I don't know what boats look like. You know, I don't really get all up in arms because my boat doesn't look like a boat. A lot of people get very frustrated and they'll stop drawing and they be like, oh, this is ugly. But like, the point is that like you have to practice, and because I don't practice drawing boats, I don't really know what boats look like. You know, so like I wouldn't worry about it. You know, after this video, I'll probably sit down and actually like look at references and say, hey, this is what a boat looks like. You know, only watch so many documentaries and play so much like what is that? Assassin's Creed. There was an Assassin's Creed game that had pirate ships. You know. There we go. I think it's better with that one little, you know. Let's just say it had cannons. We'll add cannons to it. I'm having like too much fun. So we got like a boat with cannons and, you know. But there you go. Like, it makes more sense now. You would look at that, and now that looks a lot better than what I did before. Yeah. There we go. And I'm using all the colors. Oops. Let's undo that. I'm using all the colors that are in this color wheel. In this particular color scheme, this triadic color scheme. I'm not using anything that's outside of that. I'm just using different values and variants. You know, these are my clouds. I don't do big puffy clouds like that unless I am doing cartoon work, because I know in real life clouds layer on top of each other. So even if I want to make these like real puffy, right, you can do that, but typically what we forget is about the idea of organic shapes, and the fact that like typically clouds kind of like lay on top of each other. There we go. So yeah, like I made a little nice little boat. So let's go ahead and continue. Last but not least, we have our what's the name of this again? Our analog, however you pronounce it. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but our analogous color scheme. And basically how you would do this is a lot like the monochromatic color scheme. You would you basically just pick 3 colors out of the color wheel that's close to each other. So, you know, oops, block off that. So this would be your analogous. I don't know why I put those bullets there. Analogous color, and then scheme. So it's just basically these 3 colors right next to each other. So these colors, like when you pick like 3 colors next to each other, they're very easy to look at because they're all in the same color family almost, right? And it doesn't matter which part of the color wheel you get, they're close together, and basically it doesn't cause a lot of strain on the eye. And actually we see this a lot in nature. So if you go outside right now, you might have like the green grass next to like maybe green plants or like bushes next to like the very green trees, and then like the background is blue sky, and then the sky is like not too I guess bright up against that. So it's really appealing. And actually I'm gonna just do something simple like make a sunset scene, you know. So like you made like a simple sunset scene. This is like a perfect example of this. So do like our different colors, right? And then this darkest will be like on the top. I'm gonna blend this together. So now we have like our background, all warm colors, so it kind of reminds you a little bit of the desert. And then we need like a darker color to indicate like the ground. You know, we do that. So already we got like something formed here. And then like from there, you know, you get your brightest. I'm just gonna get a slightly brighter color that's not on this color wheel. And now, like, we just made a simple landscape, and it's soothing. It's not too distracting or anything, because this is something akin to what you would see in real life or in nature. This gives you the feeling of like looking over the horizon at a nice sunset, right? Yeah. Let's talk about foreground, for example. If I wanted to draw some plants in the foreground, I could do that. You know, like a nice little cactus buddy or friend. You know. Now in this case, I'm making the foreground the darkest part because it's like closest to my vision. And that's just added more dimension, but it still doesn't clash because I'm not using like the darkest black, right? Like I'm using colors that are still in this color scheme, thus it makes a lot more sense than to like use something that's just pitch black. Nobody wants that. I mean, some people want that. Not condemning people. Let's just say you wanted a more redder hue of red, you know? Or there we go. That's more saturated. But yeah, like a more redder. You do that. But you know, when we do that, you know, when we add these three colors, it feels very natural to what we see in real life. Thus, it's not very distracting. You know, it's not something that you have to kind of squint your eyes to look at, and you know, nothing that would actually like kind of hurt your eyes, because you know, we see this all the time. And like, again, I would encourage you to actually like go outside, pay attention to what you see. Really, if you want to become like a good artist, the best thing to do is to draw what you see. Not what you think you see, but what you actually see. Again, and now I think about it, I think I am going to really do that video about symbols and how it kind of like trips us up, you know, because again, we have an idea of what we think we see, and our mind has a tendency to simplify it, especially when you have more important things to pay attention to and worry about, you know. But you know, if you want to like get to the point that you can draw for realism, or at least at the very least draw very coherent scenes and landscapes and create stories and stuff with your pictures, you're gonna have to understand what our world really looks like. Even when you get into more creative like endeavors like sci-fi and drawing like illustrations of aliens and zombies and vampires and stuff, those illustrations, those drawings are still based in reality. You know, when you draw a zombie, you're just drawing a human that has been decomposed. So you have to know about human anatomy to get that, right? If you want to like to make a big creepy space alien, like technically we don't know what aliens look like, if you know, if they do exist, but you do know what looks strange. So what you do, you go out in nature and you find something that is not human-like, and you might base your alien off of that and expand off that. I think the point that I'm making is, you want to get good at art. Like, getting good at art doesn't start with like getting the most fancy tools or the most like advanced technology. Like, getting good at art really just starts with you actually understanding what you're drawing, and then finding like a way to pull your inspiration and where to get your inspiration from to create such art. I don't particularly know an artist that has never been inspired by anything. If they tell you they just like do it out of thin air, they're probably telling a story. Not saying there aren't really skilled and creative people like that, is most of the really talented people that I know, that is exactly where they get their inspiration from. They get it from the world. They get it from sitting on a bus and not creepily, don't get creep, don't do that, but like watching people, paying attention to people interactions, going outside and looking at the different like scenery and landscape around them. They, learn how to draw by like observing those things and then trying to copy them, and then they'll use their own imagination to further, I guess, for lack of better words, to further, I guess, express their thoughts. So now that I, like, for example, let's just say I sat up and people watched all day. Now I can create that character that I want to write a story about, because I can take different character traits from people that I've, watched all day. Again, don't be creepy if you're gonna go outside and people watch. It's not cool. But let's just say you go on the internet and you go to Instagram or Pinterest and you look at different type of like models and stuff, like using those references and learning about face shapes and how people wear their hair or do their makeup, and understanding how everything fits and be in place or whatever, and then mimicking that can actually help you quite a bit in your art journey. The only reason I'm able to kind of pop out these pictures is because I'm observant. There's nothing particularly special or that skilled about me. I just have the patience to kind of pay attention to the world around me, and I know that looking, going outside and paying attention to how the sun hits certain objects, I realize like, hey, that sun reflects off that in some type of way. So therefore, if I draw this, I have to make sure that I add that detail. So this is it for this portion of this video. I hope this was insightful. I might go back and do some edits if I've got anything wrong, but I hope this part of this video was helpful. Yeah. Alright guys, that was the end of our video. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. I hope you learned something today. We went over different color schemes like monochromatic. We went over things like split complementary. We went over this is a slew of different color schemes. So use these color schemes at your advantage. Next time you sit down and watch a movie or whatnot, guess what type of color scheme they're using. It's really useful towards your art education and your overall art journey. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy yourself. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us at gotquestions@bgcstl.org. That's gotquestions@bgcstl.org. With that being said, I hope you guys have a great and fantastic day, weekend, month, summer, winter, fall, or whatnot. And we will see you in the next video.